Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Located on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, it has an alpine climate that can be warmer in winter than in most inland cities. However, the mountains on the edge of the city are high up in snow all year round, and the scenery is very beautiful, so it is the location of many movies. Located on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, it has an alpine climate that can be warmer in winter than in most inland cities. Even the name of the city of Calgary has a lot of charm, meaning clear water. However, the mountains on the edge of the city are high up in snow all year round, and the scenery is very beautiful, so it is the location of many movies. It has been more than half a month since the scene in Paris, and the middle crew flew to London, England to shoot again, and there are more than a dozen teas of photos taken before and after, and these photos are all materials for post-synthesis special effects. Then the crew flew across the Atlantic to Canada and into Alberta, where part of the third layer of Dream Mountain Forest Battle in the Snow would be filmed. Even the name of the city of Calgary has a lot of charm, meaning clear water. The Battle of the Snow Castle will then be filmed in Chile, South America, where the crew found a very old private castle in a small town next to the Andes. It has been more than half a month since the scene in Paris, and the middle crew flew to London, England to shoot again, and there are more than a dozen teas of photos taken before and after, and these photos are all materials for post-synthesis special effects. According to the owner, it has been handed down from the 16th century, and when he heard that it was going to be used for filming, he happily agreed and received a symbolic reward of $1. But with an additional condition, I hope that my daughter can appear in the movie, and she wants to show her face with a close-up. Then the crew flew across the Atlantic to Canada and into Alberta, where part of the third layer of Dream Mountain Forest Battle in the Snow would be filmed. Eric flew over to inspect and immediately agreed. It would cost a lot of money to build a castle like Nolan, not to mention that it would have to be dismantled after it was built. The Battle of the Snow Castle will then be filmed in Chile, South America, where the crew found a very old private castle in a small town next to the Andes. There are ready-made attractions, and a little renovation can save millions of dollars, so why not? Besides, the results are no worse than the original. As for the requirements for people to appear on the camera, it just so happens that Eames has a scene where he pretends to be a woman to induce Fisher, and the beauty not only has close-ups, but also lines. According to the owner, it has been handed down from the 16th century, and when he heard that it was going to be used for filming, he happily agreed and received a symbolic reward of $1. It's a big deal to add a few more lines to her, and if you extend the shot for more than 10 seconds, it can be regarded as an explanation. But with an additional condition, I hope that my daughter can appear in the movie, and she wants to show her face with a close-up. Oh, OMG. Eric flew over to inspect and immediately agreed. It would cost a lot of money to build a castle like Nolan, not to mention that it would have to be dismantled after it was built. Quick, quick, quick. There are ready-made attractions, and a little renovation can save millions of dollars, so why not? Besides, the results are no worse than the original. Under the dense pine needle tree, two figures meet in the heavy snow. In the sky, snowflakes fluttered down like goose feathers, not only lowering the pine trees, but also covering the lovers' bodies with white. As for the requirements for people to appear on the camera, it just so happens that Eames has a scene where he pretends to be a woman to induce Fisher, and the beauty not only has close-ups, but also lines. But in the heat of battle, people who are surging with blood and chi do not feel the cold. It's a big deal to add a few more lines to her, and if you extend the shot for more than 10 seconds, it can be regarded as an explanation. What's more, although the mountains and forests are empty, there is no lack of excitement to be discovered, and the spirit is even more exciting. Honey. Theron wrapped his legs around Eric. Falling snowflakes fell on her thighs. After a long time, the afterglow subsided, and the cold hit him, and the two of them spewed out white mist as they spoke. Eric kissed the tip of Theron's nose and teased, Baby, if you are louder, we won't have to go out. The avalanche will bury us here. Under the dense pine needle trees, two figures meet in the heavy snow. When the rescue team finds us in a few days, the international news headlines will inevitably belong to us, and the president will have to give way. Theron stuck out his tongue and kissed him, the blush on his face looking cute and seductive. In the sky, snowflakes fluttered down like goose feathers, not only lowering the pine trees, but also covering the lovers' bodies with white. That's not bad. How do you say that? If you can't live together, you have to die together, right? But in the heat of battle, people who are surging with blood and chi do not feel the cold. You can't live together, and you have to die together? What do you mean? What's more, although the mountains and forests are empty, there is no lack of excitement to be discovered, and the spirit is even more exciting. That is to say, when you are alive, you cannot sleep in a bed, and when you die, you must be buried in a grave. Honey. Theron nodded. Yes, that's what it means. But I think if we did die like this, your parents and my mother would have taken us home and buried us. Then we'll be a global laughingstock and after-dinner conversation. Theron's legs were wrapped around Eric. Well, I guess that's a little bit more likely. Ha 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 ha. Honey, my legs are a little cold and a little numb. Let me come down. Wait a minute. Sorry, baby. Theron looked down. It's okay. I'll deal with it when I get back to the hotel. Take medicine? Of course not. Taking medicine is bad for the body. Like you said, this position should not get pregnant. But even if I'm pregnant, it's acceptable. I'm almost 30 years old. I've thought about having a baby, and now this age is just right. But you just got the actress. Shouldn't it be the golden development period of your career? If you are pregnant, it will be delayed for at least a year. Theron shook his head. I want to get the little golden man, and now I also get the little golden man, so I am a little confused about the future development. Mom told me that when you're confused, it's better to slow down and think about it. So if it's really pregnant, it's God who slows me down. God gives me plenty of time to rest and think. Why don't I accept that? Wait, why does it sound like you're not very willing? Eric, what are you going to do if you do have a baby? Compared to Nico, who likes to sharpen soft knives slowly, Theron has a stronger personality, and her questions tend to go straight to the point and don't giggle with you. This is also related to her original family. When she decided on one thing, except for her mother, it is estimated that no one can persuade her. What can Eric say about this question, of course, is to raise his hands and feet in agreement. Seeing his attitude, Theron suddenly smiled and intimately took out a tissue to wipe the two of them clean. Eric put his arm around her shoulders and walked down the hill. Dropping Theron back at the hotel, Eric went to a local Chinese-owned leisure club. The two of them are secretly dating, so naturally they have to hide it from the others, especially not to let Nico know. It happened that Bob Sayer, the president of New Line, wanted to talk to Eric about cooperation, so he flew to Canada. It's snowing heavily again today, and it's inconvenient to film, so everyone has a day off. Eric used this as an excuse to go to the mountains with Theron to fight. In the clubhouse, Eric was lying on a chair enjoying the technician's massage, and recently he was either flying or running, and he had to take time to comfort the two women in the middle, and his body was indeed a little tired. Squeak! After a few knocks, the door was pushed open, and the waiter led two men in, none other than Bob Sayer, the president of the New Line, and Michael Lenny, the vice president. Both are there some fat figures, among which Bob Sayer still has a little more hair, and Michael Lenny is older, already bald and half-white. Seeing them, Eric stood up and walked over. Handing the coat and scarf to the waiter, Bob Sayer immediately opened his arms and hugged Eric. He had a warm smile on his face, and he didn't know that he thought that Eric and they were very good old friends. But they didn't know that they also met at various cocktail parties and award ceremonies, and would say hello and chat a few words, but had no private contact. Eric, the youngest screenwriter in history, has been dreaming of a good chat with you for a long time. Michael, Lenny, and Eric shook hands. Mr. Cooper, your talent is amazing. Bring MGM back to the top, and I can't admire your abilities immensely. Eric laughed. The development of the New Line Company is really enviable. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is too classic, and no one can beat it by sweeping 11 Oscars. Bob, Michael, your eyes are really amazing. Harvey Weinstein treats The Lord of the Rings like garbage, and you can find treasure. The sedan chair was carried by everyone, and the three of them exchanged a few words of greeting, and then complained about Harvey Weinstein together. Rumors are getting louder and louder, and it's said that Disney really plans to kick their brother out. Everyone knows Harvey Weinstein's methods and style in Hollywood, but in the past few years, Miramax was in the limelight, and no one said anything about it. But in the past 2 years, the situation has taken a turn for the worse, and if you can't do it, the enemies will naturally all come out, and I don't know how many people have complained about Weinstein in front of Eric. 2 more technicians were ordered, and the 3 of them talked while enjoying the massage. Eric, actually, we came here this time, and you must know what you want to do. Eric closed his eyes and said slowly, the copyright of The Hobbit is for this matter. Yes, when I first invested in The Lord of the Rings, I didn't expect the box office to be so good. Now that we have a good start, it's better to keep filming. The story of The Hobbit is in the same vein as The Lord of the Rings, and Bill Bergen's adventure will definitely be popular with the audience. Michael, Lenny laughed and said, Eric, why don't MGM sell the rights to New Line? We're willing to pay a high price. Knowing that he was tempting, Eric glanced at the other party. How tall can it be? $100 million, how's that? Huh. Michael, then I'll ask you a question. Does MGM have the ability to shoot The Hobbit on his own? Of course there is, after all. Michael, Lenny replied with some embarrassment. Then let me ask you another question. How much revenue does the Lord of the Rings trilogy bring to the New Line? Don't you say I'll guess that it's expected to reach $1 billion in 2 or 3 years, which is about the same number. So if The Hobbit box office is on par with The Lord of the Rings, or lower than The Lord of the Rings, MGM could make at least $800 million. There are 2 piles of Franklin in front of you, the height of a hill on the left and the size of a dresser on the right. Please tell me how to choose. Bob Meyer looked over. But you still chose to meet with me. That means you want to talk, doesn't it? Yes, I want to talk. Let's talk about the conditions. What do you want? The New Line definitely has what you need. Copyright and a statement at the moment, said Eric. The New Line can get the rights to shoot The Hobbit, and you can still shoot 3 dramas without any interference from MGM. I want a 10% cut of the box office for the first part, 15% for the second part, and 20% for the third part. This price was decided by Eric after careful consideration, and if the profit of $1 billion is used as the standard, of course, it will certainly not reach such a high level. At least the cost will soar much higher than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. According to the calculation, MGM can get about $150 million, which is equivalent to spending $850 million to buy all the film rights of New Line. Not only since the establishment of the company, but also all the films shot in the next 10 years, with an average of less than $100 million a year. It contains many valuable movie copyrights such as The Lord of the Rings, Here Comes the Grim Reaper, Friday the 13th, Rush Hour, Blade, The Shining, Ace Spy, Freddy vs. Jason, and so on. Even at the current price, this transaction is not a loss. If you wait until 5 or 6 years later, the era of skyrocketing copyright fees, it is a big profit, depending on whether the 2 know the goods. Next to him, Bob Meyer and Michael, Lenny glanced at each other, feeling that the 2 things that Eric wanted were not ordinary, especially the words statement. When something doesn't have anything to do with money, it's definitely something more terrible than money. Eric, you'd better explain it in detail. Copyright, which refers to all the film copyrights of New Line. I want to be exclusively licensed online, and the term is tentatively set at 10 years. Bob Meyer frowned. He had come across all kinds of copyright purchases. For example, physical goods, luxury cruise ships, TV channels, computer games, etc., but this is the first time I have heard of this exclusive broadcast right on the internet. It's not that videos aren't broadcast on the internet in this era, and the official websites of major TV stations occasionally do. However, what I bought was the right to broadcast TV, and sometimes it was used on the internet, and no one deliberately distinguished the difference between the two. Eric, I don't quite understand. I'm afraid you need to explain it in more detail. When Eric told him about the Lionheart, both of them were shocked. So what do you mean by that? Support me when the time comes. It's as simple as that. Hearing this, Bob Meyer almost scolded. Your light words are really simple. But if the new line really stands on MGM, it will inevitably usher in the sniping of the other 6 major companies, and the major TV stations will no longer advertise the new line, which will hurt a lot. That's right. The development of the new line in recent years has been really good, but let it face the 6 traditional strong hard steel. Bob Meyer asked himself if he didn't have the guts. The global distribution alone is much weaker, and if you leave it to others, you may not earn more than you do it yourself. Bob Meyer also had a dream of becoming the 8th biggest, but this dream had to go step by step. After the experience of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the global distribution ability of the new line has been further improved. As long as he gives himself a few more years, he is sure that this piece will not be weaker than the 7th, and then he will really have the confidence to attack the 8th position. Eric, the weight of your statement is too heavy. I'm afraid I can't afford it. Are you ready to quit before you do it? Bob, how bold did you do when you took over the Lord of the Rings? Bob Meyer frowned. Can these two things be compared? The Lord of the Rings, even if it really fails, it's a big deal that the new line will lose more than 100 million, and it won't hurt your muscles and bones, and the end of what you do with you may not only hurt your muscles and bones. I'm worried that you will be crushed. So, you don't want the copyright to The Hobbit anymore? Yes, I want to, but people always have to do what they can. Seeing that he really retreated, Eric scolded, secretly pack. Bob, if you don't want to take the risk, I won't force you, give you a compromise plan, we will swap copyrights and forget about the statement. How about it? Let me think about it. Can you tell you if you have found other allies? This question crossed the line, Bob, and I hope you keep it a secret, although it hasn't been long since the site went live. Don't worry, I know the rules, but give me a week. Well, look at your nervousness, relax, and enjoy a good massage. Looking at this indifferent young man, Bob Meyer's mood was complicated. Then he was not in the mood for a massage and hurriedly took Michael Lenny on a plane back to the United States. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Eric, it's the maximum that the new line can do, and we're taking a step back. Eric read the contract carefully and finally nodded. Okay, then that's it. You missed a good opportunity. Don't blame me for not letting the new line get on the bus in the future. Bob Meyer shook his head with a smile. Of course not. In fact, the new line does not have such big ambitions. We just want to do what we can. Eric, MGM's territory is so big that the new line can't keep up with you, but I'm willing to compensate in other ways. It's a shame, but I wish us a happy cooperation. It's been a pleasure to work with. By signing his name on the contract, MGM's partnership with the new line was formalized. MGM sold the rights to the film adaptation of The Hobbit to New Wire, agreeing to shoot a trilogy for a period of 6 years. Within 6 years, no matter if the new line shoots 1, 2, or 3, MGM will take back the copyright at that time. The new line will grant MGM the exclusive online broadcast rights of all its film copyrights, but the latest films will have to wait for at least 1 month to be released after the theaters are released. The specific delay is negotiated separately for each film, mainly to allow time for the DVD to sell. Junk movies may not have a videotape market at a glance, and they may be launched in more than half a month, and classic epic blockbusters such as The Lord of the Rings may be delayed for 2 or 3 months, or even longer. In addition, because it did not take sides, the New Line decided to make a further concession. That is, 20% of the profits of each part of The Hobbit would be given to MGM. Note that this is about profits, not the box office that Eric mentioned last time he met. The so-called profit not only includes the box office, but also the extended income generated by the film copyright. If the high point of $1 billion is still used as the calculation standard, MGM will eventually get a share of more than $200 million, which is tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, more than the box office alone. In fact, Eric also considered whether Lionheart should learn video websites, engage in popular single-film members to pay for on-demand again, and there is also a set of 12-second advertisements that members are not exempt from. But after thinking about it, I still feel that it is too disgusting and it is too unpopular to do so, and it will inevitably be disgusted by the audience. Eric remembers that one of the viewers was so angry that he sued for advance on demand. It took an unknown amount of effort, and I hired a lawyer to appear in court, and in the end, although I won, I only compensated 1,500 yuan and half a month of gold membership. What is 1,500 yuan enough to eat? And is it only an infringement of one audience? It is an infringement of countless audiences, a violation of contract law. It's a pity that the people don't hold officials accountable and ordinary people don't have the leisure to go to court, so after winning the lawsuit, it took another year or two to finally implement the cancellation of advanced on-demand. If something similar happens in the United States, the final result is likely to be the same, just lose more money and find some money. After all, they are all big taxpayers, as long as you can pay a huge amount of taxes. Except for the strange countries like ASEAN, you can enjoy transcendent treatment in ordinary countries. But the lost audience cannot be regained, and doing so in the early days of entrepreneurship is equivalent to suicide. At that time, this incident also attracted a wide range of discussions in the circle, and everyone also compared overseas and domestic video websites, wondering who is cutting leaks. After data measurement and comparison, it was found that TMD was domestic. Using 2021 data as an example, the median disposable income of U.S. residents is $3,885 per month. The basic subscription fee for mainstream video platforms is about $7, which is 0.2% of a middle-income American's monthly salary, and the premium subscription fee is about $20, which is 0.5% of the monthly salary. In the same year, the median disposable income of residents was 2,497 yuan per month. The ordinary membership fee of mainstream video websites is about 25 yuan per month, accounting for 1% of the monthly salary of a middle-income citizen, which is 5 times that of the United States. The premium membership fee is about 45 yuan, accounting for 1.8% of the monthly salary, which is 3.6 times that of the United States. Not only is the cost lower, the service level is good, and it can project TV and high-definition picture quality. Do you say it's annoying? Bob Myers stood up and handed the contract to his assistant, who carefully put it into his bag, and I don't know how much this pile of paper is worth. Let's go have a meal together. You left in too much of a hurry last time. I found a nice place in Calgary. Bob Meyer waved his hand and refused. It's better next time. I know that your shooting schedule is very tight, so I won't delay the time, and I will invite you to the party when you return home. It's not like I'm in a hurry to go back and get ready for filming. Ha ha ha. I have to be accountable to the shareholders who are still waiting for news. Well, in that case, I won't stay. With the rights to The Hobbit, the New Line can ride a horse on the road of a magical epic blockbuster. Hearing this, Bob Myers' footsteps suddenly fell, and he asked with interest, "Eric, in your eyes, what are the prospects for epic films?" Eric replied without hesitation, "Very promising. If it is in The Lord of the Rings before, I was skeptical, but the birth of The Lord of the Rings shattered all doubts. It turns out that as long as the story is told well enough, the audience is very willing to buy it, and by the way, they can also get a lot of small gold statues, which is perfectly compatible with the commercial art category type of film." This answer made Bob Meyer very happy. "This is also my opinion. A big background, a big story, and a big production can reap the big box office." "Bob, so the new line is in addition to preparing for The Hobbit, are you planning to make other epic films?" "Yes, but I need to keep it a secret." Eric shook his head slightly. "Don't get me wrong, I'm not interested in the secrets of the new line, but since your company's focus is on epic movies, it's better to sell some minor IPs to MGM for development, and it's a waste of resources to put them away." What do you mean?" Bob Meyer froze. Eric held out 3 fingers. "The rights to Ghost Street and Friday the 13th are in the hands of New Line, and I heard that you have also obtained the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then the 4 murderers are left with only the copyright of Moonlight Panic. If you don't have the energy to take care of it for the time being, it is better to leave it to me." In just a few words, Bob Meyer's mind suddenly recalled that MGM has changed its style in the past year or so, and has indeed produced some horror films and thrillers. And these films have been successful, and almost none have grossed less than $100 million. Especially the Chainsaw series is a super cash cow, and people who watch it are greedy. Although the quantity is not very large, the quality is really high, which shows that the other party understands the horror film market very well and understands what horror movie lovers want. Since the beginning of the millennium, several classic killer IPs have actually been a little weak. After all, they have been arrogant for decades, and they can't shoot anything new, and the audience is indeed a little tired. On the contrary, horror images such as Eyes Across the Mountain, Fatal Bend, and Ghost Wachachi began to challenge the position of Big Brother. That is, last year's Freddy vs. Jason received widespread praise from fans and finally won $110 million at the box office. However, the corresponding investment cost has also soared to $30 million, and generally this kind of horror movie can be done with an investment of less than $10 million, so it is not as much as you imagined. This kind of high investment is the biggest restriction on the filming of horror films, so 20 years have passed, and fans have not waited for the second part of Freddy vs. Jason. The thoughts flashed in his mind, and Bob Meyer couldn't help but think to himself, if the IP was handed over to MGM to do it, with the help of the other party's power, it would not be impossible to rejuvenate the screen of several murderers. There was a gleam in his small eyes. "Eric, what are you going to do if the new line gives the copyright to MGM?" "Linkage, of course, is to take the linkage mode. You know, Bob, I love these guys. They look so handsome on the big screen. Especially last year's Freddy vs. Jason, I also went to the cinema to support a wave, and this kind of homicidal linkage is simply fascinating. But just Freddy and Jason aren't enough. I want to see more, and I think the audience wants to see more homicidal smash. If the new line hands over the IP to MGM, I will try to get as many rights as possible and then make a big movie with a murderous maniac collaboration. It should be very interesting." Bob Meyer shook his head. "Eric, I'm not optimistic about your idea. If you integrate too many characters, how to distribute the scenes?" "Actually, when filming Freddy vs. Jason, we also thought about whether we could put the Leatherface in it, but in the end we rejected it because we couldn't find a suitable place for him in the movie. If you shoehorn it in, it will not work very well, and it will offend the fans." Pushing away the chair, Eric stood up. "Bob, that's what I should be thinking about. As the youngest best screenwriter in history, you should have faith in me." Bob Meyer shrugged. "Okay, I'll think about it." Sending the other party away, Nico walked out of the next room. Done. Another collaboration? Eric held her in his arms, and after filming every day for the past few days, he took turns comforting the two girls, and his body was getting thinner and thinner. Alas, it's so painful to live this kind of life. Who understands it? I can only say that half of the cooperation has been reached, and the new line will not eat the cake I painted, of course. Other companies will not eat it, and their choice is the same. Nico stretched out her tongue and explored Eric's body. That's because they're too visionless. I'll always be on your side, dear. Eric sneered. Bob Meyer's vision can't be said to be bad, but under his leadership, I don't think the new line will be beautiful for a few years. Why? Said Nico, a little stunned. Because he walked into a misunderstanding and made the same mistake as MGM back then. That is, he was obsessed with big investment and big production. In the 50s of the last century, MGM came back to life with the huge investment of Ben-Hur, and since then, it has recognized this model and plunged into the abyss of big studios in one fell swoop. The Lord of the Rings is to the new line what Ben-Hur is to MGM, and now Bob Meyer has been blinded and embraced the same outdated model. At the beginning, MGM's volume was much stronger than the new line, and in the end it was reduced to selling itself to Kerkorian, not to mention the new line, to see how many years its family can toss. But didn't you give him the rights to The Hobbit? Yes, but a Hobbit can't bring a company of the level of the new line, and Bob Meyer will toss it for a year or two at most. When he collapses the company one day, I don't mind joining the acquisition army, and there are still a lot of good things in the new line's film library. According to the development of the original space-time, the new line finally fell under this pattern. After The Lord of the Rings, it has been declining, and almost all the movies invested in a few years have suffered Waterloo, and the money earned is not enough to lose money. Finally, after the fiasco of Dark Materials, The Golden Compass in 2007, the new line film officially came to an end and was pocketed by Warner. And it has only been 3 years since The Lord of the Rings swept the Oscars, and in just 3 years, Bob Meyer has tossed and collapsed a company with considerable potential, and he doesn't know whether to praise him or scold him. Eric has seen this Dark Materials, The Golden Compass, because Nico is the starring role, but she was criticized for her poor acting skills and completely devoid of the level of an Oscar-winning actress. Coupled with other reasons, the final North American box office of the film was only $70 million, compared with the production cost of $180 million and the publicity cost of nearly 100 million yuan. It is really a loss. The overseas box office is powerful, winning $300 million, but the overseas distribution of the new line has not yet gotten rid of the constraints of large companies, so Warner is in charge, and most of the money earned overseas goes into Warner's pocket. So the new line did not slow down in one breath. Dead. When that day comes, Eric will definitely add to the fire, even if the new line has a stake in Warner, but he can try to buy Bob Meyer's stake. This old guy has always been able to maintain the independent management of the new line, that is, by virtue of the 21% stake in his hand, which is more than Warner's shares. Substitution. In the snowy peaks of the Rocky Mountains, Eric directs the set operations. Several of the leading actors stepped back, the stuntmen were replaced, and the next thing to shoot was the avalanche scene. With the consent of the local government and the calculations of relevant experts, the crew has planted a considerable amount of explosives on the top of the mountain in advance, and as long as an order is given, a small avalanche can be created. This scene has been rehearsed many times, but it is still a very dangerous scene, and Bell did not dare to offer to play in person. The non-essential crew has withdrawn to the bottom of the mountain, and the stuntmen are ready to give gestures. Eric walks into a temporarily rented helicopter with a camera set up inside. There are 2 more helicopters with the same configuration. After all, this scene can most likely only be filmed once, so this scene must be filmed from multiple positions and angles. Carefully check everything, and after repeated confirmations, an order is given. Inception Scene 91 Action. Boom! After a loud bang, the mountains and forests seemed to shake. The snow on the top of the mountain turned into a crazy wave and rushed down. A long red carpet stretches out from the entrance of the theater, and this is the first premiere of MGM this year, and A Quiet Place, which began filming last year and took more than half a year. The investment in the film was actually not large, expected to be $15 million, and in the end it cost $17 million, although it was overspent, but it was still within an acceptable range, and the money was mainly used for special effects in order to make the monster more realistic. The publicity cost is not large. MGM has invested only $3.5 million US, and the total cost of the film is only about $20 million US. In an ordinary independent small company, it can be regarded as a big production, and in several large factories, it is a scratch game. For a movie of this scale, there is actually no need for a premiere. After all, even Saw 2 did not have a premiere. As a big boss, Eric usually doesn't attend, but who made the protagonist of the movie Elizabeth Olsen, his sister-in-law, almost became his goddaughter's little girl. Ashley and Mary begged themselves to be there for their sister, and he had been flying all over the world for more than half a month, and the two sluts were also a little hungry and thirsty, and they were waiting for comfort. In addition to these children's affections, there are also several more important business matters that he needs to handle personally, so he still flew back to Los Angeles. On the crew of Inception, Neil is in charge for the time being. He has already led the team to Chile. Everything is according to the script, and there will be no major problems. Elizabeth, get closer to Ashley and Mary. We need a group photo. On the red carpet, with the arrival of the Olsen sisters, the atmosphere suddenly became enthusiastic. The Golden Globe actress and Oscar actress nominations are still there, and the two are now Hollywood's hottest first-line flowers. Then some young actors came to cheer one after another, and the Olsen sisters were all brought to the stage by virtue of their connections. Paris Hilton, Rachel McAdams, Ryan Gosling, Jessica Biel, Monica Kinna, Rachel Roberts, Jeffrey Pierce. The three sisters were all dressed up, and although Elizabeth was only 15 years old, her development speed and mildew belonged to the same type, which was already higher than the two older sisters. The flash kept going, and everyone came up to take a group photo. "Mary, aren't you at odds with Jessica Biel? Why is she here too?" asked Ao May quietly. Mary greeted her friend while helping her sister straighten her collar. "Elizabeth, this is Hollywood. As long as you are hot, they will kneel and lick you. I don't have a deep hatred with people. It's just a competition for roles, and some time ago at a party, she took the initiative to talk to me, and that's it." Ryan, my sister Elizabeth. Ahead, Ashley brought Ryan Gosling over to meet with Almay. When she and Eric were chatting, they used to talk about the younger generation in Hollywood. Eric casually said a few names, thinking that they had the potential to be on fire, and Ashley kept them all in mind. "Whenever I have the opportunity, I will make friends with these people." Hollywood parties are held every day, and after a few encounters, the original strangers become acquainted, and the relationship is established. For these new generations who have not yet risen, the current Olsen sisters have become an existence they need to look up to. Not only is the company becoming more and more prosperous, but also won the Golden Globe Queen, and the complete transformation has been successful, and it is my luck to be able to make friends. Ryan Gosling smiled. "Hello, Elizabeth. I heard this movie is your debut." Aome shook her head a little shyly. "It's not counting, in fact. I've made a cameo in the TV series, although there are few scenes." No, that can't be counted. Don't take the TV series as your starting point, but put it here. The big screen is what we actors should pursue. Just like your sister." Next to her, Rachel McAdams suddenly interjected. Looking at this young and beautiful beauty who suddenly appeared, Aome couldn't help but tremble in her heart. What a beautiful girl. Ryan Gosling pointed at the other party. Do you need me to introduce me? But it looks like you've just met. At least a minute ahead of you. Elizabeth, this is Rachel McAdams, a girl from Canada. Not only beautiful but also very good acting, a really good actor. Ryan, you seem to know Rachel well, you're good friends? Ashley looked at the two curiously. Rachel McAdams grinned and said, because I just finished working with this guy on a movie. A youth movie with a love theme. Is it released? Asked Aome hurriedly. No, I heard that the file is set in June, but that's the company's business, the New Line investment. Saying that, Rachel grabbed Aome's little hand familiarly. Don't worry, little girl. The name of our movie is The Notebook, and there is no possibility of conflict with A Quiet Place when you hear the name, and the audience is a different group of people. What's more, I'm still worried about crashing into a MGM movie, and who doesn't know now that MGM movies almost don't lose money? And you're definitely going to be popular, except for very little loss. MGM is also recognized as a newcomer. Suddenly, there was a commotion ahead, and everyone's attention couldn't help but be drawn to it. Looks like there's a big guy coming. Before Rachel McAdams could finish speaking, Eric in a casual suit got out of the Lincoln sedan and walked briskly onto the red carpet. Seeing him appear, many people immediately sighed that this trip was not in vain. The media wants to get some useful information out of his mouth, and the actors want to show their faces in front of the big guy. Eric, aren't you filming abroad? Why did you come to the premiere? A reporter asked. This is a film that I invested in. Is there a problem with coming to participate? No, I mean, how is the filming of Inception? Can you tell us something? Everyone is looking forward to it. Eric waved his hand. Today's protagonist is A Quiet Place. I don't want to answer any questions that are not related to it. Please focus on the movie, okay? Saying that, he ignored the paparazzi's questioning, hurried to catch up with his chicks, and kissed Ashley and Mary on the cheeks politely, and the real artillery battle could wait until the premiere was over. Sorry, Elizabeth. The plane encountered turbulence, though I wasn't too late. What? Sounds dangerous. Aome covered her mouth. It's nothing, I've encountered it many times. As long as it's not a typhoon, I can always get through it safely, so I rushed here after changing my clothes. I shouldn't have asked you to attend, and if something happened, I would be a sinner in the Olsen family. Hearing their sister's words, Ashley and Mary's hearts pounded, and something felt wrong. Hello, boss. Do you still have an impression of me? Said Rachel McAdams with a smile as she reached out to say hello. Eric shook her hand. Of course, Rachel. Did the filming of Mean Girls go well? A big boss like Eric actually remembered his name, and Rachel nodded again and again like a chicken pecking rice. Everything is going well. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Wait, you're talking about Mean Girls? Is that the script you showed me and Mary? Eric snorted. You guys are the first choice, but you two don't want to act. So Rachel auditioned successfully. What? Ashley, Mary, it looks like I'm supposed to treat you to a feast. Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. It's better to be like this. Didn't you just say that MGM is the best at praising newcomers, Rachel? You're going to be popular this time. Ha 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 ha. After chatting for a while, Eric put his arm around Aome's shoulders to take pictures of the paparazzi, and the two stood together, but they looked like a couple. Eric, as Elizabeth Olsen's debut, do you have anything to give her? Asked a reporter from the Los Angeles Post. Aome looked up at Eric slightly, her eyes revealing anticipation. Eric also looked at her and said loudly, Elizabeth Olsen, she will be a rising star in Hollywood. The paparazzi immediately wrote down this sentence. Good, tomorrow's topic is here. Aome only felt sweet in her heart. Thank you, Eric. We still need to say thank you for our relationship. Enjoy tonight. Looking at Eric's departing back, Ryan Gosling said with some jealousy, You seem to be overzealous. What's the matter? Rachel McAdams glanced at the other. He laughed a few times, and the man didn't speak. Since the filming of Love Notebook, Although there are countless handsome men and handsome guys in the entertainment industry, few people can arouse Ryan Gosling's high vigilance, and he is still confident in his charm and family background. However, Eric Cooper is obviously accepted, the other party's grade is too high. Even if he stands there, he doesn't know how many female stars want to pounce, and taking the initiative is even more devastating. Come on, I don't have any feelings for Eric Cooper, and he won't take a fancy to me. Rachel McAdams waved her hand. How do you know? You're so pretty. I guess it's because I don't have a twin who looks alike. SHHHHH. Although some people privately speculate that the Olsen sisters are two maids and a husband, but speculation is speculation, and it depends on the object of making pornographic rumors. Be careful of being banned. Everyone walked towards the Grand Theater, and Eric chatted with the important members of the crew. Among them, the role of Dad is John Coubert, who is a multifaceted artist on the big screen, small screen, and music industry, and has achieved good results in all three. The most well-known role in the film is My Grand Greek Wedding the Year Before Last, and this film is a successful example of a small and broad one. The cost of $5 million was exchanged for nearly $370 million at the global box office, ranking among the top 10 box office that year, and John Corbett was the leading actor. Playing the role of a mother is Mexican actress Laura Herring, who is best known for her famous suspense masterpiece Mulholland Drive. Although she is already 39 years old, Laura Herring's beauty has not diminished, but has become more charming. It's just that her luck is not too good, and she has never caught fire. But she is best known for her marriage to the descendants of Bismarck, the iron-blooded chancellor of the First German Empire, so she was called the Countess for a few years. Eric, the little boy who plays his younger brother, is not impressed, probably a newcomer. As the lights in the theater fell, the MGM logo appeared, and the Golden Lion roared a few times. The movie officially began. Eric made appropriate changes to the plot to make it seem more plausible. First of all, the actor was changed to a somewhat basic scientist assistant, and some unpleasant plots were also given to his son to ensure the popularity of the sister played by Aome. In the first few minutes, the background is explained clearly. Alien monsters invade the Earth and countries are either wiped out, or they shrink back to study ways to deal with monsters. Monsters have no eyes, but they have a very keen sense of hearing and rely on their sense of hearing to catch their prey, so the surviving humans cannot make the slightest noise on a daily basis. After the family came to the store to loot the supplies, the younger brother gave a toy airplane to the third child in the family, but no one noticed that the third child secretly took the battery. Therefore, the plane made a noise, attracting monsters, and killed the third child with one blow. Whoosh! Looking at the huge ghost that flashed by and the child who was suddenly knocked away, many people in the movie theater screamed. Children are generally treated as special in movies, and there will be no direct death scenes, but it doesn't mean that they can't die. Why Hollywood forbids the death of children and pets is just nonsense. The reason why there are few is purely for the sake of ratings. Even if there is death, as long as there is no plasma flying around, severed limbs and stumps, as long as the screen switches fast enough, the impact is not great. A Quiet Place got the page 13 level, which is not even the R-level standard. And the sister played by Aome is deaf and mute, and she didn't notice that her younger brother started the toy plane and didn't stop the other party in time, so she blamed herself very much. What follows is a daily battle of wits and courage with monsters, mending the rift in the family, and at the same time preparing for the upcoming new life. Dad is responsible and brave. Mom is extremely resolute. Aome acts as Dad's qualified little assistant, and the fucking plot that causes conflicts is given to the younger brother to be responsible. There must be someone to take the blame, right? The depressing atmosphere rendering and the close monsters staring at each other made the audience in the cinema raise their hearts to their throats, until the father sacrificed to save his family, and everyone couldn't help but sigh in unison. As Aome noticed the weakness of the monster's fear of high-frequency vibration, her mother finally killed a monster with one shot, and the feeling of fear and aggrieved was released in an instant. In the end, in the face of the monster that attacked again, the family is no longer afraid, and they want to avenge their family, and the movie comes to an abrupt end. The lights of the theater were turned on again. The creators took the stage to thank them, and many audience members spontaneously gave a standing ovation. Seeing this kind of scene, Eric knew that the movie was a success, and the high-concept horror film gave the audience a sense of freshness and made them feel the long-lost creativity, which was the most appealing. Next, wait and see if the box office of A Quiet Place can surpass that of A Quiet Place, Saw Horror is Up. After all, in the original plane, it was more than that. After the premiere of A Quiet Place, Elizabeth is sent home, and sisters Eric and Olsen come to the hotel to rest. Eric sat on the couch and watched the news on Fox, which was playing a preview of the second season of American Idol, which was beautifully cut. However, the more than 1-minute trailer did not show the figure of Justin Stewart's scumbag. Ashley said, "It seems that Fox also has a headache and doesn't know what to do with this matter. Eric, have you watched the news abroad? It is said that Justin Dingblake paid more than 1 million bails before he came out of the police station." Eric laughed. "It's quite rich, but I don't know if I can afford it in the face of a claim. I think it's difficult. He has really become popular in the past few years, and most of the money has been earned by the company, and it is estimated that he will file for bankruptcy, and maybe the house will be mortgaged out at that time." Speaking of the house, Mary suddenly poked her head out. She sipped her red wine and said, "Eric, I want to move out of the house. It's too inconvenient." "What do you mean?" said Eric, pretending to be confused. "Buying a house, of course, and Ashley and I discussed buying a house in Beverly Hills." "Well, but you two are only 17 years old. Is it too early to leave the family? I think it's better to wait at least until next year when you reach adulthood." Hearing this, Mary glared at him. "Bastard, when you abducted Gal Gadot to the United States, she was not an adult. And then? Are you two very happy when you're fooling around? Why didn't you think about it at the time? If we want to move out, we make excuses based on our age. Are we worried that it will affect you?" "Well, you're thinking too much. I'm just worried about your safety. After all, 2 17-year-old girls, people with bad intentions can suffer. Have you forgotten the lesson of John Lennon? His wife was disemboweled, but she was still pregnant with a child. Alarmist people are concerned. Dozens of police cars patrol Beverly Hills every day, and it's safer to rob a bank than to commit a crime here. In the past, with our financial resources, it was difficult to afford tens of millions of dollars in luxury homes, high property taxes, and maintenance costs. But it's different now since you joined. Double Star Entertainment's performance has gotten better and better. Its profits have increased by almost 4 times, and it's now completely affordable. I've inquired about it. It's not far from your house. There's a building for sale about 1 kilometer, and I want to move there for as long as $18 million. Seeing that she was still thinking about it, Eric was a little big. Now that Nico is fine, she and her mother will go to worship and have a relationship, and if you two get involved again, it will definitely be even more troublesome. He digressed the topic and said, "By the way, speaking of the company, MGM is about to launch a new children's animation, Peppa Pig, and after the broadcast, it will be licensed to Double Star Entertainment to develop peripherals, and it will definitely make a lot of money. I have a hunch that this cartoon will become a global hit, and it is not impossible to become the cat and mouse of the new century." And then we also started to go public and, according to my plan, gradually annexed Hasbro and Mattel and became the largest monopoly toy manufacturer in the United States. No, it should be said that it was the world's largest toy manufacturer. Ashley regained some strength, but she had come at least 8 times, and now her eyes were half open and half closed, as if she were about to fall asleep. Eric, while your hunch has always been accurate, surpassing Cat and Mouse sounds like a joke, and Cat and Mouse was created by MGM. Don't you know its greatness? Jerry may have to compete with Mickey to see who is the greatest mouse in the world, but Tom is definitely the greatest cat in the world. What do you say? Peppa Pig. Yes, a little pig, and it's a preschool animation. I don't think it's likely. Eric smiled. Then let's wait and see. I think this pink little piglet can bring at least more than $300 million in profits to Double Star Entertainment every year. Hearing the exaggerated figure of $300 million, Mary's attention was successfully diverted. Really? Eric, better not let me think you're joking. How about a bet? If that number is reached, I'm going to be welcome. What do you want? Eric clicked on the center of August 15th, and the two of them were immediately electrocuted. What are you going to do? The awards season is over. You can't be idle all the time. If you don't take on the show, you might as well shoot MGM. Recently, I found a good book from the script library called Marriage War, a comedy set by two heroines. Ashley shook her head. Married? Sounds like we're too far apart in age, and it doesn't have to be a double heroine. In fact, Mary and I both received movie offers. But the combination of the two of you is the biggest selling point, and being separated always makes people feel like a disadvantage. But how can there be so many excellent two-heroine scripts in the world? You can't wait forever. Maybe you'll be able to shoot Marriage Wars in a few years, when Mary and I are in our 20s. Eric didn't insist either. Okay, forget about this movie. It's also the dubbing of an animated film, or the setting of two heroines called Frozen. The protagonist is a sister, and like you, she is a princess of a country, which I have reserved for the two of you a long time ago. I remember you mentioned it once, the one that DreamWorks was working on. Mary remembered something. Well, the big A-list production, maybe the box office champion this year. Mind you, I'm talking about the world champion. Champion, is your hunch again? Yes, it's always accurate. Los Angeles Times. A Quiet Place is a dazzling horror film. The source of fear is set in a novel setting, and the atmosphere is very good, and it is recommended for fans who like horror movies. Salt Lake City Entertainment News. The silence and oppressive atmosphere, the terrifying suffocating environment, the slightest sound will be torn to shreds. This is the best horror movie of the year. If you want to feel the horror, be sure to go to the cinema to watch A Quiet Place. There is everything you want. The Chicago Sun. MGM's new film, A Quiet Place, is premiering, and it's definitely worth watching, as MGM has always produced horror films. The three Olsen sisters ushered in a combined show on the red carpet, and MGM President Eric Cooper was in attendance to praise Elizabeth Olsen as a rising star. NBC Entertainment. An excellent horror thriller with full acting online. As the little sister of the Olsen sisters of Golden Globe actresses, Elizabeth Olsen has contributed excellent acting skills, and a new Hollywood star is rising. CBS Entertainment Online. The Olsen Family, a rising Hollywood upstart. MGM Building, Office. After signing a lot of documents, Eric browsed the reviews of A Quiet Place, and, as expected, the novelty of the high-concept horror film made most of the media give positive feedback. Not only the media, but also the audience received a good evaluation. The freshness rate on Rotten Tomatoes has reached 93%, and it is rare for a horror film to get this number. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door, and Carol and Chun-Shing walked in. Carol said with a smile on her face, "Boss, the data is out. A Quiet Place won $28.77 million at the box office in 3 days over the weekend. Based on current trends and reviews, next week's box office is expected to reach $50 million, and the box office forecast given by Box has been adjusted to $130 million. Eric nodded. I know. Send a text message to the main creator of the crew to congratulate me and prepare a celebration banquet. Boss, do you want to participate? If you don't participate, I still have to fly abroad to shoot Inception. You can attend instead of me. Okay, I see, and Mel Gibson's company is in talks with us. Do we want to have a premiere of The Passion of the Christ? Eric scoffed. Is Mel Gibson crazy? Still want to have a premiere? He doesn't think the movie is troublesome enough. If this premiere happens, I'm afraid that there will be extreme Jews who will take extreme measures and tell him not to think about this nonsense. Honestly, release it. Don't make moths during the period. Restrain the actors. Don't talk nonsense to me. Just sit and wait for the money. Hold the premiere of The Passion of the Christ. Unless Eric is crazy, he can't really do it in the United States. Go to the Vatican. There is no better place than there. Carol left, and Chun-Shing stepped forward. Congratulations, boss. A quiet place will definitely make a lot of money again. Don't be a sycophant. Let you come over and arrange a job. Some time ago, I came back from Huaxia and set up a new company, which is mainly engaged in film and television output to Huaxia. I'm going to let you serve as vice president in the past. Don't let go of MGM side of things. Be busy, but it's good for future development. What do you think? I listened to the company's arrangement. Chun-Shing said without thinking. Well, that's the answer I want to hear, and in a year and a half, you'll go to Huaxia to take charge of the overall business over there and replace Susan. Her language and culture are always a barrier, and you're the one who has the advantage. Thank you, boss. I will definitely work hard. Chun-Shing only felt that his heart was about to jump out excitedly, and the service leader was indeed the fastest to promote. He remembered that his grandfather always said that he would start a business first and then start a family, and now that he can do this in his early 30s, this business can be regarded as standing. It was close to noon, and Eric looked at the time, estimating that the other party should also arrive, so he got up and went to the conference room. It didn't take long for the staff to lead the two women in. Walking in front is Mrs. Valentine, the current owner of Hudson Theater, followed by Louis Fei's cousin Zhou Wenxiong, one of the former 12 hairpins of Zhuiying. Mr. Cooper, meet again. Mrs. Valentine took the initiative to reach out. She was a middle-aged woman in her 50s, and her face looked kind. And her style of acting is the same as her face. Such a person will definitely not make money in business, and it is not easy for the Hudson Theater to collapse yet. Hello, Ms. Valentine. See you again, Joan. Zhou Wenxiong smiled like a flower, and after hanging for more than half a year, she thought that there was no drama, but who knew that the cooperation would suddenly be negotiated. As an intermediary bridge builder, not only Mrs. Valentine has given him a lot of money, but Eric will definitely give him a good salary. After coming to the United States for so many years, I finally want to get ahead. As a Chinese and a woman, it is really not easy. The crowd took their seats, and the lawyers for both sides began to review the contract. Mr. Cooper, the Hudson Theater is the brainchild of my husband, who bought this century-old theater and wanted to run it better, but unfortunately there was an accident. I'm a woman who can't help him fulfill his wishes, and I hope you can make the theater better, even if it is my husband's wish. Eric looked solemn. Don't worry, Ms. Valentine. Michael Mayhua bought the theater for $30 million, and it will cost another $15 million to renovate it. We're not kidding with the money, and from today, MGM is officially on Broadway, and you'll see this century-old theater come back to its glory. Of course, I believe in your abilities. I have read your deeds many times in TV and newspapers, and I wish you success. In addition, although I am no longer the owner of the theater, I still have a few words to say. I hope you can adopt it. Eric nodded. Please, I'll consider it if it's reasonable. Well, it's mainly about the staff of the theater. You must have seen the relevant information. Some of them are old people who have worked for more than 10 years and have a lot of experience in this industry. The poor management of the cinema is mainly due to me, not because they are not capable. So if you can, I hope you don't fire these people. A lot of people are counting on this job to support their families. Eric listened to her calmly, but didn't say anything. This old lady is indeed too benevolent, and she still thinks about her employees at such a time. Fools know that the loneliness of the huge theater is absolutely inseparable from the poor level of the staff. Do you want to continue to use you? Mrs. Valentine looked at Zhou Wenxiong and continued. And Joan, she has a wealth of experience on Broadway, and it will definitely be of great help to you to run a good theater. Mr. Cooper, I hope you can continue to hire Joan as a theater director. In fact, with her ability, she is fully qualified for a higher position, such as theater manager. After the old lady recommended it, Zhou Wenxiong stared at Eric, hoping that the other party would nod. But Eric is still expressionless, focusing on a person you say yours and I listen to mine. Seeing this, Zhou Wenxiong couldn't help but feel a little anxious and just wanted to say a few words, but the lawyer next to her finally finished reviewing the contract. Mr. Cooper, according to the prior agreement, there are no problems with the contract, and it can be signed. Eric finally smiled, the pen swiped it, and the payment took effect. 2. Happy cooperation. Let's have a meal together. Okay. Walking out of the conference room, looking at Eric's tall back in front of her, Zhou Wenxiong's teeth squeaked and hurt. Damn, this guy doesn't seem to want to admit it. What should I do? Sister, are you still in Los Angeles? Zhou Wenxiong came to the bathroom under the pretext of coming to the bathroom and quickly took out the phone and called Lu Xiaoli. There, Sisai is making a blockbuster, MGM's new A-grade blockbuster, The Hunger Games. On the other side of the phone, Lu Xiaoli said, a little ostentatious and proud. A year ago, her daughter could only act in TV series opposite. Who would have thought that a year later she would enter the Hollywood crew as an important supporting actress? It can be said that Lu Yifei has gone through the road that other Chinese actors can take 10 years to complete. Don't care what methods are used, except for the granddaughter of a real general in the entertainment industry, which one doesn't use dirty means, as long as you achieve results. No one dares to laugh at you. Sister, you've already told me about this. Zhou Wenxiong was a little speechless. Really? Ha ha ha. A lot of people have been asking me lately, and I've been confused. Okay, I'm not fooling around with you. I'm in Los Angeles now, and I just signed a contract with Eric and he bought the Hazender Theater. But this guy doesn't seem to want to use me. Looking at his attitude, it seems that he wants to change all the people in the theater. What should I do? Lu Xiaoli thought to herself that your broken theater is about to break up. Does it need to be said that the reason is still to be said? With Eric's ghost-like personality, it is strange to use you. However, strictly speaking, the theater falling apart does not have much to do with Zhou Wenxiong, because she has always been in a state of idleness, and the middle-level small leaders who have no real power cannot give full play to their abilities. This cousin of mine belongs to the kind of person who is strong, otherwise she would not have resolutely left the Pearl Film Studio and came to the United States to pursue a higher life. She needs a chance to prove herself. Sister, you've been with Eric for so long. Give me ideas. What is he like? What does he have? I don't know. A person of his status and power doesn't have any special hobbies, and even if he does, it's not something you can afford. After a moment of silence, Zhou Wenxiong suddenly asked, what about you? Why was Sisai able to get such good resources? What method did you use? This question is a bit unreasonable. Even if the relationship is good, I won't ask. Lu Xiaoli naturally can't say that because I slept with him. She is not thick-skinned, and she doesn't want to lose this person in front of her cousin. And what if I say it myself? Zhou Wenxiong suddenly opens up and chooses this path. 2 sisters in one bed. Is it embarrassing? Maybe he thinks that Sisai has potential. After all, MGM wants to open up the Chinese market, and Sisai is the hottest star over there, and no one is more suitable than her. That's all. Maybe, okay, I'll hang up. Sisai is a little dangerous to hang Weiya. I have to keep an eye on it. Hey, sister. Listening to the busy sound, Zhou Wenxiong was a little depressed. Although the stage play is not as dirty as Hollywood, It can't be said to be clean, and who doesn't know that? Full of anxiety, Zhou Wenxiong returned to the table, but she was not in the mood to eat a bite from beginning to end. Seeing that Eric and Mrs. Valentine had finished their meal and were ready to leave, her heart was completely anxious. This is the last chance. If you can't catch it, you will likely be expelled if you go back, let alone see Eric. It's the same thing whether people read the text message or not. She couldn't help gritting her teeth, and an urge suddenly surged in her heart to compare herself with her cousin. The more you hide it, the more I want to tear off this fig leaf. It's a big deal to be a junior high school first, of 15. And look at the other party's young and handsome face. Put it in the entertainment circles of countries around the world. You can fascinate many women, and you can earn money by being yourself with him. In just a few minutes, impulsiveness prevailed, and Zhou Wenxiong had already silently tamed herself in her heart. At least at this moment, her reason dissipated, and there are some things that do not turn back once the bow is drawn, so it is often said that impulse is the devil. Thank you again for your trust, Madame Valentine, and hope to see each other again in the future. When the theater is renovated and reopened, I will definitely be there, and it is my life's wish to see it reborn. Rest assured, the day will come soon. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Cooper. Saying goodbye to Mrs. Valentine, Zhou Wenxiong took the initiative to stretch out her hand. Mr. Cooper, thank you for your lunch. It tastes great. Women take the initiative to ask for a handshake, adhering to the gentlemanly demeanor, and men generally do not refuse. But at the moment when the two shook hands, Eric felt his palm be gently scratched a few times. Huh. He raised his eyes to look at Zhou Wenxiong, who smiled, licked his lips lightly, and then turned to leave. Is this woman seducing me? Back in the lounge, Eric took off his coat and nodded confidently at himself in the mirror. Can't be wrong. With the appearance of this face, she is definitely seducing me. As if confirming Eric's suspicions, the phone suddenly rang and a text message was received. The content of the text message is simple, nothing but the room number. It's really embarrassing for me. The big boss still needs to go to the sewer in person, repair the light bulb in person, do oral care for others in person, and kill the whole body for others, alas. Feeling that it was not easy for him, Eric rubbed his stomach. Just finished eating, just exercise to eliminate food. The old saying is not that after a meal, walk 100 steps, live to 99. Adhering to the principle that exercising is good for his physical and mental health, Eric finally came to the hotel. In the room, Zhou Wenxiong regretted it after sending that text message, and her sober IQ occupied the high ground again. The reason why her career has not been developing smoothly is that she does not accept the unspoken rules. Just impulsively, I broke the principles I had always adhered to, and I immediately regretted it. What should I do? Tell Eric that it was wrong? But as I left, I felt like I was scratching his palm. Refusing to open the door doesn't seem appropriate, and it's even worse if it attracts someone's attention. No, maybe people just laugh it off as if they didn't see it. Well, that's even worse. Doesn't it prove that I'm unattractive? It's better to wait for him to come and communicate and think differently. This is also a good opportunity to show my ability in person. Damn, it's the ability to work. Thousands of thoughts flashed in her mind, but there was one thing that Zhou Wenxiong was determined to do, and she must not rely on her body to get on top. Just as she was thinking wildly, there was a knock on the door, which startled her. Who? Set your mind right and go through the organized language in your heart again. Click. Opening the door, Zhou Wenxiong just opened her mouth to say something to relieve the embarrassment. Without warning, he was pushed down against the wall by a force. His mouth was violently stuffed, and his two tongues were entangled, and he started oral gymnastics. Boom! In an instant, Zhou Wenxiong's brain went blank, and everything she imagined was forgotten. She felt a masculine aura hit her, and Eric's height of nearly 190 was like a giant beast that shocked her. On the other hand, Eric's idea is very simple. You have taken the initiative to send me the room number. What does it mean is self-evident. Playing a fart is reserved. The best way to dissipate embarrassment is to ignore the embarrassment directly. What a 1,000-year-old fox is doing to talk about fasting, it's over. So the two collided fiercely in the collision of opposing ideas. Suddenly, I felt that Zhou Wenxiong began to resist, and her hands wanted to push herself away, but Eric grabbed it with her backhand and twisted it behind her. I can't imagine that you look weak, but you like violent tones. Very good, I like it too. Took out the treasured means that he hadn't used for a long time, and after a few actions, the other party's resistance began to weaken, and he panted and softened in his arms. The initial incongruity lasted for a few minutes, and then it came to pass. Feeling the slippery skin, Eric mentally gave the other party a score. According to her age, she is 40 years old, which is a weakness among women, second only to Lu Xiaoli and older than Nico. But Oriental women have always aged slowly. Especially the other party should pay attention to maintenance and exercise, so it looks not much different from 30 years old, which Oriental women have more racial advantages than Western women. Judging from her appearance, Zhou Wenxiong still has the eyebrows and eyes of her youth. Her appearance can be summed up in one sentence: she is more beautiful than Lu Xiaoli and Lu Yifei. Lu Yifei once said that she is the ugliest woman in the family. If you compare it according to the same age group, it is indeed a big truth. According to the ethical score, Zhou Lu's family is not weaker than Olsen's family, and they all have a great psychological stimulation bonus. In the future, if the three women can be in the same frame and sleep together, it will be a beautiful thing. And Zhou Wenxiong also showed excellent flexibility and dancing skills. She is light, weighing only a little over 90 pounds, and she is not stressed when hanging on Eric, and can do all kinds of movements as she wants. "Joan, have you ever danced?" asked Eric. Zhou Wenxiong closed her eyes and snorted. "When I was young, I practiced kung fu, and at that time, kung fu movies in mainland China were popular, so I studied for a while. Later, when I went abroad, I started to get into stage plays, and then I learned dance, which is the basic skill of Broadway. When I got older, I started doing yoga, and in recent years, Pilates has also become popular, and I have learned some. In short, I have been exposed to everything that is good for the body. No wonder your flexibility is so good, much stronger than Lu Xiaoli." As he spoke, Eric suddenly realized that something was wrong, but the other party suddenly opened his eyes and looked at him with burning eyes. "Eric, let me ask you, are you already in a relationship with my cousin?" "Nope." "Then, why do you want to praise Sisai? In Hollywood, she is not Michelle Yeoh or Lucy Liu." Eric chuckled. Smart people don't knowingly ask. Seeing him admit it, Zhou Wenxiong suddenly felt a strong stimulus, as if she was cheating with her relatives, and the taboo of betraying morality made the impulsive desire occupy the high ground again. As the saying goes, the beauty blows the flowers and moves, and the young man is like a jade like a rainbow. The tortoiseshell feast was drunk in her arms, and the bottom of the hibiscus tent was helpless. The mandarin ducks are in pairs, and the pear blossoms and begonias are magnificent. The face of the enchantress is like a flower with dew, and the jade tree shines in the back hall. After more than an hour, the clouds and rain stopped, and the sky cleared. Stroking the other party's satin-like back, Eric couldn't help but sigh. "Joan, your physical strength is so good. Yoga is not practiced in vain." Zhou Wenxiong rolled her eyes. "It's cool, it's comfortable?" What do you mean? You don't seem to be very happy when you hear it." "Of course I'm not happy. I didn't mean to get on the boat with you at all. I just wanted to talk to you." Eric was stunned for a moment. "Wait, did I misunderstand? Or is there something wrong with your hint? Are you the one who scratched my palm?" "Yes," the woman nodded. "Are you the one who gave me the room number?" "Yes," the woman nodded again. "And what are you trying to do now?" "Whoever asked you to push the door in and forcibly kiss it, I couldn't speak and I resisted. Don't you feel it? But you don't resist completely, and if you don't resist completely, you don't resist completely, do you? You. Zhou Wenxiong was speechless with anger. Seeing her puffed up, Eric smiled. Okay, okay. The raw rice is cooked and cooked. Don't regret it. And you just screamed so loudly, you don't know that you think there's a killing force in the room. Seeing that she was about to complain again, Eric quickly diverted the subject. What do you want to talk about? Zhou Wenxiong calmed down. Theater matters, Eric. Do you know anything about Broadway? Eric shook his head slightly. I don't need to know too much. Well, we can't talk like that. I'm telling the truth. It's only $45 million to buy the Grand Theater. Is it a lot? I'm investing more than $100 million in the movie I'm making. Am I proud? You guy, you're so annoying. Well, you say. Although I know what you want to say, but I'm willing to listen to it as a sign of respect. Zhou Wenxiong snorted angrily. Don't say it, it's boring. Just when I was bitten by a dog. What's the matter? I still have my temper out after a good night's sleep. In this way, I'll call your cousin over and you can exchange experiences. Don't. You're going to kill people, aren't you? And 45 million isn't money? As long as it's run properly, the theater can make 10 times more profit. The two chatted until the sun set, and Zhou Wenxiong, who calmed down, became very professional, just like the two of them just now. She told all the insiders and unspoken rules of the industry that she had experienced and understood over the years. Only then did Eric realize that he was underestimating the other party, and he was also underestimating this line of work, and there were many doorways inside. If you don't hire an expert and want to compete with Disney, I'm afraid it's very difficult. Seeing that success had attracted the attention of the other party, Zhou Wenxiong said with a solemn face, Eric, give me a year. If you can't make the theater look new, you don't need to say it. I will take the initiative to resign. So confident. What I need is a chance, and I hope you don't look at our relationship too complicated. Today can only be regarded as an accident. Don't look at me differently just because I slept. You don't need to make a decision now. Think about it. I'll wait for your answer. After speaking, Zhou Wenxiong kissed Eric on the face and decisively got dressed and left.